In a previous video, I discussed the meta shifts of the Legacy of Phrecia event compared to Settlers, especially considering that this event uses the same skill balance as 3.25. And although there have been some interesting developments between the two leagues, such as Archmage almost completely disappearing from the meta as a result of no real mana stacking caster ascendancy being available to replace the Hierophant, much of it remains the same, which is expected considering how much of an impact skill balance has versus ascendancy placement. But after diving into these meta changes, I realised something about the Legacy of Phrecia Ascendancies. I realised that I'd really like to see them added to the core Path of Exile 1 game, and not just as a private league flag. I mentioned this at the end of the video and you guys responded in the comments, with the overwhelming majority advocating for the Phrecia Ascendancies to go core in some way. Now don't get me wrong, these Ascendancies being added as a private league mod is going to be a great addition, and I expect I'll have a lot of fun in the future in private leagues as a result. However, what I really want to see is just how these Ascendancies will shape up against the core lineup, especially when skill balance is shaken up in a future patch. In other words, I kind of want to have that option available in the future, that you can play one of these new Ascendancies in a core league format without needing to opt into a private league. Some of the Phrecia Ascendancies have enabled archetypes that historically haven't been supported particularly well by the core Ascendancies. A good example of that is attack-based mana stacking builds and the Whisperer, which is one of the real breakout classes of this event. Now, I do of course recognise that the Legacy of Phrecia Ascendancies aren't particularly well balanced, and they would require a proper review and maybe even some reworking here or there before they would be up to par for the core game. So this is unlikely to be something that happens immediately in the next update. I don't think they require perfect balance, but they need to be in a bit of a better place than they are right now. And so this got me thinking about the state of PoE 1 right now and this event, and the future of the game. Because I really do think that this type of exploratory event is good for the future of Path of Exile 1. So how exactly could these new Ascendancies find their way into the core game? Well, the first and most obvious scenario there is that they're just added alongside with the normal choices, so you'd end up having 6 Ascendancy options per class at the Labyrinth Altar rather than the normal 3, and 2 for the Scion. After all, it's important to remember that PoE 2, back when it was simply tagged as Path of Exile Update 4.0, and when it was initially planned to be a giant update to PoE 1, their original concept was to bring a bunch of new Ascendancies to the core Path of Exile 1 experience, and have them accessible alongside the original Ascendancies, naturally increasing the total amount of options available. Now, whilst I'm not opposed to this idea, I think there might be a really fun way to implement the Phrecia Ascendancies. But before we get there, let's take a look at a few interesting ideas from you guys from the prior video comments. Firstly, we have this comment from Craigery. I think if GGG were to do anything, they'd take the best or most popular of the new Ascendancies, tune them up a bit, and make them a 4th option or 2nd option for the Scion. This sentiment was actually echoed in several other comments as well. Yeah, I could see just one of the 3 for each class being cherry-picked to go into the core game. That would be less work for GGG overall. Some of the Ascendancies are close to being full concepts that are just a numerical balance away from being perfect, whilst others need entire reworks on some of the notables or even full branches. Though I think if we had the choice, I'd still prefer to see them all come back in some way, even if it takes us longer to get there in the end. Next up we have Hybrid Slayer 1252, who says, alternate Ascendancies from Replica, Forbidden Flesh and Flame Jewels from Heist. Log in. Fun idea actually, though I assume this would mean just accessing a notable from the Phrecia Ascendancies akin to the normal Flesh and Flame Jewels, where I'd absolutely prefer if they came back in their full form somehow. Gaining access to a notable is nice, but the full concept of the Ascendancy is lost if it's done in this way. Now, if what they meant by this comment was instead that you would socket these replica jewels into your tree and it then transforms your entire Ascendancy, for example, it could transform the Elementalist into the Herald, well, I think this could actually work. The balance of those Ascendancies would need to be mindful and take account of the fact that 2 jewel sockets are used to obtain them, but it would be a way to get them into the core game, and I have to admit, they would kind of fit as replica uniques. Kind of goes with that theme. Cool idea. Silent but Dudley says, I would honestly enjoy it if they added new nodes to the existing Ascendancies from these new Ascendancies. So this is somewhat similar to the Flesh and Flame idea. I think this can work, especially as Silent but Dudley says in the rest of their comment there for the underperforming Ascendancies. But I'm not sure how easy it is to fit a node into an old class without having the concept be just right. For example, if you were to attempt to buff the Assassin with nodes from the Surfcaster or the Blind Prophet, they just might not fit thematically and kind of end up steering the entire design of the class in a different direction. I think I'd rather they reworked or rebalanced those older Ascendancy designs to stay true to what they wanted from them initially. Okay, so from the response of the comments in that video, it was clear that many of you would like to see the new Ascendancies in the core game. Now, one solution that I thought of that might be really fun in the long term, especially in regards to the future of Path of Exile 1 and its release cadence and the size of leagues going forward, is that they could add them in a very interesting way. A way that would keep each league release feeling fresh. What if the available Ascendancy options for classes were randomized on a per league basis? For example, let's say they take the 19 Phrecia Ascendancies and work on balancing them to be up to par for the core game. They then take those 19 and throw them into the pool with the original 19. Then, whenever a new league is being released, the Ascendancy options that are available for each class are randomly chosen from the pool of options in that class. So for the normal classes, that would be 3 options randomly selected from the 6 available Ascendancies, and for the Scion, it would be randomly chosen between the Ascendant and the Scavenger. As an example then, let's say 3.26 is launching and the pool of Ascendancy options is being released in the patch notes. For this league, if you choose to play a Marauder, you can ascend into an Antiquarian, a Berserker, or an Ancestral Commander, but you cannot choose the Juggernaut, Chieftain, or Behemoth. This idea of randomized Ascendancy options would challenge the meta in different ways each league, because even if a given skill is good on a particular Ascendancy, it may not be anywhere near as good when played on something else. And so if that option is unavailable, you then promote exploring new options as a result. A good example of that is Archmage being almost entirely ditched in Phrecia, even though it's incredibly strong in the base game right now. Regardless, I really do think that adding the Phrecia Ascendancies to the core game in some way will be a massive positive for the game going forward. Let me know what you guys think about that idea and about the ideas posed by the previously mentioned comments as well. And let me know if you're still playing Phrecia, or perhaps you are patiently waiting for Last Epoch, or PoE 2, or 3.26. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.